Wyatt, tell us about your company and where all those solar panels are going.
Well, you see a lot of equipment behind us here at the Solar Energy World headquarters, right here in Laurel, Maryland. We've been around since 2009, originally up in Elkridge. And then as we grew over the years, we shifted down here to the bigger building here in Laurel. So just a company that's been locally based and steadily expanded, to some of the surrounding area, Northern Virginia, also up into New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, even one office now down in Central Florida.
Big changes coming to the solar energy business in the Republican reconciliation bill that was just passed. What does it mean for potential residential customers and commercial customers?
Yeah, the big bill has passed and become law. And looking at the final product that ultimately was signed into law, some big impacts to the solar industry, no doubt about that. The big one for residential customers to know is if you are interested, even potentially, in purchasing a solar system for your home, to get the full federal tax credit, or the ITC as it's been known, the investment tax credit, 30% back to you at tax time based on the year of installation, now is really the time to look into solar, to think about taking action toward moving ahead, because you need to be installed this calendar year to take the 2025 tax credit. And unfortunately, that will be the last year that at least individual homeowners can take that 30% back uncapped on both solar systems and solar plus battery systems. Commercial installation still a little bit different, a little more runway there. 12 months, I believe, to start construction, and then there'll be some other opportunities with things like solar leasing down the line that will stay intact. But for purchasing as a homeowner, this really is the time to do it.
Do we have state-level incentives in Maryland in addition to the feds?
Certainly, Maryland has offered different incentive packages. They actually increased it for 2025, certain requirements based on income and other things that you could potentially get up to $7,500 back on a home solar installation. The state has been changing whether that will be continually funded through the end of the year, kind of staying tuned on that front. There are also county incentives, places like Anne Arundel County, Harford County, offering specific county incentives. So it really depends where you are. One of the things we always like to do at Solar Energy World is look at your exact location, zip code, neighborhood, see exactly which incentive packages you might qualify for.
If somebody watching us has an average home in an average part of the state with an average roof and all that, what are the numbers like? What would your typical installation cost? So when we're talking about 30% back from the feds, what does that really mean?
It varies a lot home by home, of course, but we can just talk about averages. The average home solar system here from Solar Energy World all over Maryland and the DC region can be around the neighborhood of $30,000. That's before all incentives. Many of our customers finance up to 100% of that and make it a very low payment, of course. But the bottom line is that creates up to $9,000 on an average size system back to you at tax time. Battery systems, those also qualify for 30% back. Those tie into the solar systems. And so it is significant. Back in 2019, we saw something similar. We're going from 30% to 26%. The average system, you maybe lose about $1,200, $1,400 back. This year, you're talking about, again, upwards of $9,000 on an average size system. So it really is significant, the amount of money in play here for those considering shifting to solar from what is obviously becoming ever more expensive utility power.
So what should a homeowner, a starting point, what should they know? Is there a situation where it's an obvious no-go? Your house is in the middle of the forest and you never see sunshine versus, wide open, big roof. What do you want people to start thinking about?
I think what the average homeowner should think about is if your home has good access to the sun. And that's something we have to look at. Often in the first call, we look at the satellite pictures. Do you have tremendous numbers of large trees to the south side of your home or even the east and west sides of your home? Solar may not make sense at that point. Sometimes we can trim a tree back and that'll help. But there are times where it just might not work. But in most cases in Maryland, solar will make sense if you have an unshaded roof facing southeast or west. And I think the biggest thing for people to consider is what will you pay if you don't go solar? You know, if we can save you an average of, let's say, $200 a month on electrical spending, that's $2,400 a year. In 10 years, not even accounting for further increases, you'll have spent $24,000 on power to the utility and really not have anything to show for it. So we just say to everyone, if the opportunity is there and your home is a good candidate, maybe it makes a lot more sense to have that paid for home improvement in 10 years and also free power coming from the system and from the sun.
I would guess that this is an average part of the country in terms of the amount of sunshine, the strength of the sunshine we get. You know, it's not Nevada, but it's you know, not Barrow, Alaska either.
I think that's correct. Look, I mean, the Central East Coast, you know, from New Jersey all the way down through Virginia, where we do a tremendous number of our installations, of course, Maryland being the heart of that. We get very good solar, what we call access numbers. You know, site quality levels can be upwards of what we call, you know, 12 to 1,300 in some cases. To give you a reference point, all the way down in Florida, those numbers can get to 14 and 1,500. So obviously it can get better further south, but we see solar successfully installed where the arrays point south all the way up into places like Michigan and Maine. So it certainly can work throughout most of the U.S. through most of the year. And here in Maryland, we're also fortunate. We don't get that many snow days in the winter where your panels are covered up. If it does happen, usually they melt clear in just a matter of days.
You know, people may be thinking about the frequent power outages, especially this time of year, thunderstorms on a regular basis. To what degree can home electricity generation be used to run the house? You mentioned you also sell power walls. Is that necessary to be able to run off the grid?
Yeah, that's a great point. Something that maybe the average person doesn't know, that's maybe just beginning to look into solar or just thinking about it now that the tax credit is going away at the end of the year. They may say, okay, it sounds great, the electrical savings based on the power I generate from my roof, but what about backup power? What about when the power goes out? By default, a solar installation by itself in Maryland and really across the East Coast is designed to shut down with the grid. So if the grid goes out, for electrical safety, the solar also shuts off. Of course, the minute the grid comes back on, the solar powers back up automatically as well. However, if you add a battery system, whether it be a power wall or a different type of battery wall that we can provide you here from Solar Energy World, for example, there's several brands out there, several manufacturers. You're talking about a situation where if the power goes out, you're instantly now running off your battery systems for all the circuits you tied into those battery walls. And so we have plenty of customers out there who have raved about the first time they lost power, their batteries kicked on instantly. They didn't know they lost power. They actually got an alert on their phone app letting them know the grid had gone down. So it is very seamless, and some advantages over generators where you don't have the exhaust, the noise, and certainly not the maintenance of the battery system. It's pretty much seamless once we have that installed along with your solar.
How about zoning concerns? I mean, I live in an area with a, let's just call it a very strong HOA. So that would be one question. And then I was talking to a friend who was considering solar off the roof in a jurisdiction where it can't be visible from the street. Are those real concerns?
So really two different things there. Take the last one first. You're talking about like a historic area sometimes, places like Tacoma Park, Maryland. Those are areas we have to get special additional permitting with the Historic Society sometimes. We're typically very successful at doing that since we've been doing this since 2009 in the state, but it can add some time to the project. Another reason not to delay, especially if they're in those areas and you want to get this year's tax credit. And secondarily, for HOAs, the great news is in Maryland, even in Virginia, something called solar access laws passed by the states essentially mandate the HOA grant us that permission without any undue restrictions. They may want things like all black panels, or to the extent we can, we hide all the conduit work, aesthetically pleasing solar, but they really can't deny the solar application.
One of the things that's changed over the years in a positive way for homeowners, commercial installations, is the cost of the panels themselves and the efficiency of the panels has improved a lot, has it not?
It has. I mean, just 7 years ago, a lot of our panels were not even 300 watts per panel. Now we have plenty of modules in the warehouse. You see behind me, well over 400 watts a panel. Huge increase in power. per panel. That means more power off the same amount of roof space. That means a faster return on investment for you, because even as the power has gone up on these panels, if anything, the price has stayed flat or gone down slightly. So really it is a great opportunity, especially when there are programs out there to help those at different income levels, as well as different types of financing programs that you can do this with no money up front. Really is something that is great to at least look into, especially if you kind of feel like those power bills are just getting to be a bit much for you.
What do you all expect to happen now that this law has passed and been signed and there's a deadline? Are you expecting a little bit of a gold rush between now and the end of the year? And can you handle it? I would think you have a certain number of experienced installers, and you're going to run into a capacity problem at some point.
Great question. The good news is this was somewhat well advertised. You know, back even in the spring, we started seeing indications that the solar credits may be at least reduced. We didn't necessarily know it would go from 30% down to zero for homeowners, but we expected potentially there would be a surge coming out of the summer into the end of the year if the tax credit changed. It has changed. It's gotten much lower, obviously down to zero. And so the bottom line is what we are looking at is a surge in business that has already begun as of, frankly, the Monday after July 4th, when this bill was signed. We have seen a tremendous increase in call volume and new appointments. We have the ability to install several hundred homes per month from Solar Energy World. So we feel confident that anyone who meets with us relatively soon will be able to guarantee that installation this year for solar, assuming you sign up certainly before, let's say, the end of the summer. That should be relatively safe. Beyond that, you really start getting down to the deadline, because remember, even once you sign up for a new solar project, we need to get all your engineering completed. We need to get all the permitting done electrically and structurally with your county. Sometimes there are additional permits with things like the HOA. So this takes several months. You really don't want to get down to the tail end of the year and still try to get the 2025 tax credit.
Wyatt Everhart with Solar Energy World, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Great to be with you here on MPT.